The Mavic 2 Pro versus the Mini 3 Pro. Is it an upgrade, is it a downgrade, or is it a side grade? That's what we're going to find out. Before we start this video, remember to subscribe to the channel for more photography related content and just generally having a good time. Okay, so now you've subscribed, let's get into the drone. Now, one thing I'm not going to do is go crazy into the spec sheet on these drones because, as we all know, spec sheets are one thing and the actual image and how it works in real life is a completely different thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the good things about one drone, the bad things about one drone, and then compare them together and see which one is best for you. So let's start with the good on the Mavic 2 Pro. It has a Hasselblad 1-inch sensor, which means it's going to let in loads of light, and it also has an adjustable aperture so that you can change the f-stop in the camera from f2.8 to f11. This thing also does 10-bit video, so it means basically you're going to have a lot more information to work with when you're editing. This thing will also fly a lot stronger in wind, mainly because it's bigger, it's got bigger blades, it's just a heavier drone, which means it's just going to be more stable in the wind. Now let's get on to the list of bad things about this drone. It's just a little bit more faff when setting up, especially with the controller, because I don't like the fact that the controller has these gaps in it that I have to take off my phone case just to be able to get my phone in it. And then not only that, you also have to open the arms in a certain order so that you don't snap one arm off when you're opening it. It doesn't have native vertical shooting, so the camera doesn't actually twist to shoot vertically. Now, in today's world, in terms of TikTok, Reels and Shorts, that's a big deal. This also runs on a much older app, and it seems that DJI have sort of forgotten about this drone and its app. Probably one of the biggest things is the noise that this thing makes when it takes off. Oh my god, just listen to this. When you take this off, everybody within a 10-mile radius knows you've just taken off. Next thing is, this does not shoot slow motion. It doesn't shoot 4K 60, it doesn't shoot 1080p in 120, it literally just shoots in 4K 30. Okay, so that's the good and the bad on the Mavic 2 Pro. Now this little dinky thing. The Mini 3 Pro. It just makes me smile every single time I hold it, just because of how small it is. I don't even feel like I'm actually doing a job. I don't feel like I'm doing work whenever I pick this drone up. I just feel like I'm having fun with a toy. It has native vertical shooting, like I mentioned earlier, that the Mavic 2 Pro doesn't have. It means that the camera will actually twist to be vertical so that you can make all those native vertical videos and photos for TikTok, Reels and Shorts. This thing doesn't shoot in 10-bit color, but you do still have the option to shoot in a flat color profile for more professional workflows. If you just want to get more dynamic range and play with your colours a little bit more, this thing still does come with a D-Cine-like flat colour profile. It has a 48 megapixel sensor in it, which means that when you take a photo and you come to Lightroom to edit it, if you didn't quite get the framing right and you need to readjust it or crop in, you're barely going to lose any detail because you've got so many pixels to work with. This also comes with the all-new Active Track, the latest version of Active Track, and it also comes with this new bypass feature, so that if it's tracking you, rather than just stopping dead when it comes to something, it will literally just go around it, which is amazing. And the flight time, 31 minutes, which is matching the Mavic 2 Pro on such a small drone. And that can even be extended up to 47 minutes with a different battery. But please do bear in mind that if you do buy that battery, the one that does 47 minutes, you are going to overweigh the 250 gram weight limit on this. The next great thing is this also does 4K 60 frames per second and 1080p and 120 FPS, which means you can film slow motion. Meaning that if you're out on quad bikes and you want to track yourself, you can actually watch all that back in slow motion, kicking sand up and water. Oh yeah, sick. Now the bad features about this is that it doesn't have any side-facing sensors, so if your drone is flying sideways, you've got to be really careful about flying into trees and objects. This is not a Hasselblad camera, it doesn't have an adjustable aperture on it, which means that you can't really control the depth of field or control the light just that little bit extra so that you can keep your shutter speed in one spot. You sort of just have to rely on shutter speed and ISO and ND filters. Next thing is its flimsy design. It definitely feels like it's been 3D printed. These little propellers feel like they're just going to get broken if you push it into a bag. It's small enough to go anywhere, which means you're never really going to be cramming it into a tight spot. And then in the video side of things, it definitely feels a little bit too digitally sharpened to me. It doesn't look naturally sharp, it just looks digitally sharp. Looks a little bit iffy to me, but then again, the average viewer isn't really going to notice that. So let's compare the overall image quality from both these drones. Now, personally, I think that the Mavic 2 Pro still comes out on top in terms of image quality, especially in video, because it just looks naturally sharp. And it also has that 10-bit color depth, which means it just looks a lot better with the more colors. There's less banding and things like that. So yeah, the Mavic 2 Pro definitely still comes out on top in terms of video quality. But in terms of photography, I still think the Mini 3 Pro is the better way to go, because you've got the 48 megapixel sensor, which means that you can crop in afterwards, and an on-the-go camera that can turn vertically, which means you can shoot for Instagram, Reels, and things like that. So I definitely think the convenience of that is trumping the image quality of the Mavic 2 Pro. If you're doing a lot more high-budget video work, then the Mavic 2 Pro is the way to go. But if you're doing something like, you know, casual content creation for YouTube and Reels, Shorts, and just making fun short videos, or even just YouTube vlogs and things like that, you'll definitely get away with the Mini 3 Pro. And even on some professional shoots, such as weddings and things like that, you'll definitely get away with it. Overall, the entire experience between having a Mavic 2 Pro and a Mini 3 Pro is that I never used to bring this drone with me, mainly because it just took up so much space in the bag. When it comes to the Mavic 2 Pro, in the sling, I can literally just get the drone and the controller and some camera filters and extra SD cards and things like that. But when it comes to the Mavic 3 Mini, I can fit an EOS R or R5 with a 24-105, a 15-35, or any kind of big lens like that, and the Mini 3 Pro and its controller, and close the bag nice and comfortably. The fact that I can fit my main camera in there, and probably even a mic on top, and a drone that's ridiculously high quality, is unbelievable. And for me, it's all about convenience with a drone. I'm not overly fussed on image quality, mainly because it's that high up in the sky that you never really get like a genuine sense of sharpness or clearness, or, you know, oh, that depth of field looks great. You don't. So everything's always in focus on a drone. Why would I need something with an adjustable aperture? You don't. And that example right there pretty much just concludes my entire argument that the Mini 3 Pro is way better than the Mavic 2 Pro. So I actually slightly prefer the fact that this has like a guided outer rim to slot onto the older controller. But even still, the sticks are a bad design. They just need to fold down and slot into the controller and lock into place. They shouldn't be detachable at all. But that's something for DJI to think about in the future. Anyway, that was the DJI Mini 3 Pro versus the Mavic 2 Pro. Let me know what you think in the comments about this new drone, and whether or not you think you'll be ditching your Mavic 2 Pro for a Mini 3 Pro. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff you already love to do. I will see you in the next one. Silly.